Hi, Jack. How are you?
Aloha, doing good, Derek.
Right on. Aloha. Mahalo for being here.
No problem.
Yeah, so started this brand new podcast called Permastoked, and you're one of the players that keeps coming up on the Great Lakes for me. And so I recently read your book, so I thought maybe we could connect.
Great. Which book did you read?
Actually, I read three of them.
Oh, okay.
I've read both Wave Chasers, which are a lot smaller when you receive them than you think they are when you order them online.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, and then Lake Surfer's Journey.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the end of Lake Surfer's Journey, I think it was like 2007, it says that you had landed back in Michigan, but it looks to me with the palm trees that you're sitting in Hawaii.
Yeah, we moved back to Hawaii last June, June
Oh, wow.
2019, and we were in Michigan to take care of my mom because my dad passed away, and then she passed away, and we got 9 grandchildren on Oahu, so we moved back to be by the grandchildren.
Oh, I see. So what did the last, if you were to update your book, what would the last 13 years sort of look like back there?
Oh, and well, Michigan, yeah, I started a couple beach stands, surfed down the lake whenever I could. I would come to Hawaii and visit the grandkids every year. Me and the wife, we'd come for about a month, and then back to Michigan. You know, 654 wetsuit in the wintertime, boots, gloves.
Yeah,
Felt like you were the uh, Ghostbusters Marshmallow Man. Just like
yeah,
that.
that's true.
So now I can surf about it. I surf almost every day. Get up
Wow,
early, go get the waves for an hour, and then come home.
that's amazing. What island are you on?
I'm on Oahu.
Oh,
I'm in
perfect.
Eva Beach, and we're at the we're not too far from the Waianae coast, still on this edge, and it's amazingly um, there's always waves. It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's just there's waves every day, and I got my 10-0 and my 11-0. I don't know if you can see them,
oh, I can see him. Wow, nice.
and so, but I mostly would stick with my 10-0 right now.
Yeah,
And but it's interesting because I'm getting older. I'm losing some of my reflexes, so it's like it's more of a challenge. But just getting out in the water, it just kind of mellows you out.
yeah,
When I have been surfing for a while, my wife says, you need to get some water behind your gills because I don't know, you just
yeah,
get uptight. At least I do. I don't know about you guys.
yeah, no, for sure. That's a great order to have. Yeah, go surfing. Perfect. I'm done. Perfect. So are you
So what lake?
always a longboard guy?
Oh no, when I started out, I longboard. I went all the way down to a 6'4" twin fin. Rick Irons made it for me, Andy Irons' uncle,
Oh, wow.
and that was the shortest I ever got. And then it just kind of grew longer from there till I got up to 11-0.
Yeah,
And
wow.
I used to surf Waikiki, and the guys in 11-0s would catch all the waves before me. So I thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah,
So I got
really.
11-0, and I I wasn't part of the crowd. I was the crowd, but
Wow,
um,
amazing.
Uh, but now I'm down to a 10-2 uh, NSP board. And the thing of it is, where I'm at, the uh, the crowd is pretty mellow, and
Hmm.
it's spread out, and you can usually find a peak all to yourself. So the 10-0
Wow,
is working really good for me. Matter
that's
of fact, I'm probably
incredible.
going to sell the 11-0 because I'm running out of room in my backyard and stuff.
Uh,
But,
so is that closer to the North Shore then? This Eva Beach?
no, we're on the South Shore, still on the South Shore, right before it turns for the West Shore,
Okay,
and so North Shore is about 45 minutes from here,
okay. So
but I don't
closer
surf
to
north.
Waikiki then.
We're about 30 minutes from Waikiki.
Yeah,
Uh, but I don't surf the North Shore anymore. I used to back in the
No,
day, but I don't travel far to surf. It's like the beach is 4 miles away from me, so it's like that's as far as I go.
that's incredible. And you don't have to watch for storms. You just have consistent waves.
Right, yeah. On the lake, of course, you look at the buoys, you look at the beach cams, you look at the forecasts. Of course, I lived in a little town called Bridgman, and I was 1.6 miles from the beach, so I mostly just drive down there every day and look at it.
Mm,
But we had some really good days.
yeah,
Uh, Super clean. Of course, hardly anybody was surfing there.
yeah.
Most crowded it got for me is if I would go to St. Joe, which is about 20 minutes north of where I was at, and then I knew just about everybody, so it was pretty mellow. And even then, you could spread out, you could find your own peak and stuff. So, but my home break is still St. Joe, Michigan, a place called Ursula's. I rented a room from this German lady in 1967 for the summer, and my buddies that would come over and surf, we didn't say, hey, what are we going to call this break? It just happened. We just called it Ursula's, not with a
Okay.
U, with the E, and I think it's still called Ursula's. And then to the north of it, you have Silver Beach, and then to the south of it, you have Second Street. But Ursula still breaks fairly consistently when there's waves. That's my home break, Ursula's.
Nice. Home break and second home break anywhere on Hawaii.
Well, now my home break is well, they closed the beaches down here for the
Oh,
coronavirus thing, and the other there was a beach we can get to called Nimitz Beach, but the
hmm,
beach we used to go to called White Plains, they closed the parking lot, and they would ticket you, and cops would whatever. But the Nimitz Beach, if you went there and parked on the street, because it's just mostly street parking, they were ticketing people. But now they're not ticketing people anymore. So um, it's it's really mellow. I mean, the days that we had on Lake Michigan where it was super clean,
hmm,
it's like that almost every day here in the early. I go early morning,
yeah,
like 6, 7 o'clock. But those days we had, I would guess maybe we'd have anywhere from 10 to 20 really clean days on the lake in a year.
hmm,
And of course, we would just be overjoyed. And
yeah,
now it's like this every day. And I'm like, oh, Lord, I'm super blessed. I just got to, enjoy it while I can.
yeah. So, and the other thing I've noticed with the guys in Michigan is really you guys are surrounded by lakes. So you sort of whatever way the wind's blowing that day, you sort of have options.
Well, I just stayed close to home for the most part.
Uh,
The farthest I traveled north was about an hour and a half, and then south maybe an hour into Chicago. But as I got older and older, it's like I just didn't want to travel. I was too lazy. If it's not breaking within 20 minutes of my house, I'm not going.
okay.
But some of these guys, I remember one time we were surfing Ursula's, and my buddy had just come. The guy that taught me how to surf, he had moved away to Iowa, and he drove to come surfing with me. He drove 5 hours. This other guy had driven from Rock and Roll Bob, we used to call him. That was his nickname. He had just traveled from Cleveland, Ohio. So he had traveled another 4 or 5 hours. And then there was another guy there. I forgot where he was from. But between me and these guys that I was meeting with, there was like, just to get where we're going to surf, there's like 12 hours of travel time.
Wow.
But, that's how dedicated the lake surfers are. It's like,
Yeah.
that's why I named the book Wave Chasers, because we would wait and wait, and then we go chase the waves down. And sometimes you get skunked, and sometimes you'd hit jackpot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the common themes whenever I talk to lake surfers. It's sort of there's no sort of picking and choosing. It's like if there's waves, I'm there. It's not like if
Oh,
you were on the ocean and it was consistent. Nah, it's not as good as I'd want it to be. I'm not going to go today.
yeah, and when we go surfing here, one of the big differences I found is I'm not as in big of that much of a big hurry to get down to the water and get out in the waves, because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Sometimes on the lake, you'd get there and you'd have waves for an hour and then it'd be gone.
that's true. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you try to talk to me when I was getting ready to go surfing, you know, that conversation would be short because I wanted to get out. After it was over, I'd talk to you. But
Yeah.
before, it's like I needed to get out in the water because I didn't know how long it was going to last.
Right on. Well, yeah. So I grew up, I heard you kind of asking me which lake I'm on. So I'm currently living in Vancouver, been here for 12 years. So I go out to Tofino quite a bit on Vancouver Island. But I grew up in a town called Leamington, Ontario. It's the most southern point in Canada. So we had a break there. So I started surfing when I was about 18 or 19. But I was sort of just all on my own, figuring it out sort of by myself. And every once in a while, there'd be a van full of guys from Michigan that would come over, and I met quite a few people that way. Now,
Was that Lake Ontario?
no, this is Lake Erie.
Oh, Lake Erie. Okay, okay.
Yeah, no, I grew up on Lake Erie. So then in 2008, my wife and I moved out here to Vancouver, but now we're in that phase where we're trying to start a family, and our family, my father just passed away, and family seems to need us more and more back home. So we got our sights on the Great Lakes area and just kind of seeing where we get led to. But the research is on, and I'm currently laid off from COVID, which is great because it's actually giving me quite a bit of time to look into that and hopefully figure something out. I'm
So
thinking
when
for
you say, well,
Sorry, go
you're
ahead.
on Vancouver, you're near the ocean, right?
I'm near the ocean, except we have this giant island in the way.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Vancouver Island. So in order to go surfing, I should have looked at a map a little better 12 years ago when I moved here. I thought I'd be surfing more often. I'd probably be surfing more often if I was back on the lakes, to be honest, because it's an hour and a half ferry ride, and that's, $100 each way. And then you're looking at 3.5 hour drive from one side of the island to the town of Tofino where all the waves are. So, and then, there's
Oh,
hotels and everything like that. So it's not quite as convenient, but every summer we take a good couple weeks and just camp there and live it up. It's literally one of my favorite places on earth, probably second to going to Hawaii that one time. Tofino comes in really close because it's all like Canadian forest, just trees everywhere, wildlife, the rugged ocean. It's really just a great place.
are there a lot of big rocks out in the water there?
There are some, but nothing that people are running into. Nothing like that.
Okay.
You can definitely see them. Sharks aren't really a problem up this far. Last time I was out there, I saw some porpoises. Some people see orca whales, but yeah, it's a pretty good, pretty clean break there, and pretty good conditions.
On Lake Erie, are there any surf shops? Do you know of any surf shops in the area? There was approximately 15 surf shops when I wrote that book.
Okay.
And I know I've heard of more, like Jake, I think Bessett in Milwaukee, Lake Effect Surf Shop.
Yep.
So I know there's more, but I don't know how many more. I was like, when I wrote that book, actually, I shouldn't say I put it together because people sent me all these pictures and stories, and I just compiled them. But I was like totally shocked how many surf shops there were on the Great Lakes. There was like 15. I would guess now there's probably a couple of dozen, and
Yeah.
that's just a wild guess. And as far as like just a guesstimate for how many people surf on the Great Lakes,
Hmm.
I would actually guess between 5 and 10,000, and that includes boogie
Really?
boarding, surfboarding, stand-up paddle boarding, you know, kite surfing, and everything else. But it was way bigger, and that might actually be a low estimate
Hmm.
because it's going to take a lot of people to support a couple of dozen surf shops.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I
I
know
was
in
amazed.
the Surfing the Great Lakes book, when he wrote that, I think that was the early 2000s or late 90s. I can't quite remember. But the number he had in there was only 500. long time ago, right? Like probably 20 years ago or so.
Well, when I started, we thought we were the only guy in Sawyer, Michigan. There was maybe 8, 10 of us, and we thought we were the only ones that surfed on the Great Lakes. We had no idea there was anybody else. And it was a couple of years later when I actually needed a skeg fell off my board. I needed a skeg that I found out there was a surf shop in Grand Haven, which is an hour and a half north of where we were in Southwest Michigan. So we drove up there, and unbelievable how many, there's like 20 guys out in the water surfing. There was a surf shop. They had some kind of surf rock band play that night, and we thought we had died and gone to heaven.
Yeah.
And then for all those years, we thought, okay, there's us, and there's those guys in Grand Haven, Doc and Will Beaton. Those are two of the most famous guys from there.
Yeah.
Well, then years later, we found out there's all these crazy guys over in Sheboygan. Lee and Larry Williams and all those guys, and of course the Chicago guys, they had been kind of growing, and a lot of those guys. But it's actually been very interesting to see how the sport has grown, and to meet people, and there's been such a nice camaraderie between lake surfers, but that's starting to change a little bit. We used to get guys come to our break from up north of us, and they would come down with this attitude like they own the place, and it didn't really make me very happy, because I thought, I just thought, hey guys, we're so unique, let's just all be friends. But some of them, you'd say hi to them, they wouldn't even look at you, and I'm like, oh man,
that's too bad. Yeah, I know it's such a small tribe in a way, it doesn't make sense not to be friends. And that's what I like about it. I like hearing these parallel stories, like to hear about you starting surfing in the 60s, and then to know that, me around a similar age in the late 90s, had a very similar experience, like finding surfing on my own amidst the, living in the countryside sort of a lifestyle. And it's really just wild to see people living this sort of Southern California lifestyle, but on the lakes. It's incredible. And you mentioned Lee and Larry Williams. I'm currently reading their book as well now. Have you read this? Okay. Some Like It Cold?
No, I haven't read it yet. But I actually met those guys. I went to the last Dairyland Classic, and it was a real fluky too. I was checking out the waves one day, and this guy pulled up and looked at him, and got to talk, and it turns out to be Doc Beaton's brother, Will Beaton. Okay. So we went down to this break down in Gary. He didn't know where it was, and so I took him there, and the waves are really good. We had a great time. So we kind of became friends. And then a little while later, he said, hey, you want to go to the Dairyland Classic? And I said, man, I've never been to that. He goes, yeah, we can take the Ludington Ferry across, drive down, and then when we're done, we'll just drive around the lake, through Chicago, because it'll be, on Sunday. We'll come back on Sunday. So I said, okay, sounds great. So we did that. We took our boards. We surfed Frankfurt. Then we took the ferry across. And, of course, the day after we left, there was waves in Sheboygan.
Oh, wow.
And I want to tell you that the elbow there in Sheboygan, I've never surfed it, but I've seen pictures. That is one of the nicest longboard waves, and the ride is like got to be a couple hundred yards long when it's really working. So anyway, but so we made it to the last Dairyland Classic, and they did that for many, many years. Yeah, all the lake surfers would all get together, and I would meet guys from the other lakes there, and one guy, Will Wall, he's in my books, and Burton Hathaway, I met those guys. They're both from California. They're kind of like, they're so stoked about surfing, they keep everybody else stoked.
Yeah.
But I met a lot of interesting characters there. And Kenny Ashburn was there one year. Kenny's from Lake Erie. Did you ever hear of a Wildwood Surf Club?
I've heard of Wildwood Surf Club. I've seen the logo, but I don't know much about it.
One of the main guys was McGilla, and McGilla and Kenny were good friends. And then Kenny moved to Hawaii, and it actually turns out he lived right next door to my office in Waikiki.
Oh, wow.
So we surfed together a little bit. We hooked up with Jim Hoop when he came, and Kenny's still here, but he lives on the other side of the island from me, so I hardly ever see him. When you live on an island, the other side of the island is like, it's like going from Florida to New York. It's so far away, even though
Wow.
it's only like a 40-minute drive.
Yeah, really.
But yeah, so I got to meet a lot of those guys, and I've only surfed on one of the Great Lakes, and that's Lake Michigan. I've never been on surfed any of the Great Lakes, and it's on my bucket
Really?
list to surf on all of them, but I never
Yeah.
have.
I guess because you have these books with people from all of them, it gives this sort of illusion that you've been to all of them. So how did you
Oh,
get all the people and their stories and photos for those books?
Facebook.
Okay,
I
so
hooked up with them on Facebook. I just started friending people, asking questions, looking at pictures, asking for permission. And I got to tell you, 99% of the people that I asked for permission to use their pictures said yes. And we did for a time. Now the sales have slowed way down. We did for a time donate to Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project and some other, um, you know, what do you call it, nonprofits and stuff like that. But yeah, but everybody so many people just willingly, let me use their pictures. And it was never meant to be a big money maker. I mean, I make a
mhm.
few bucks here and there, but that was the reason for that book, Wave Chasers and the Wave Chasers 2, is so that when somebody came into one of the Great Lakes surf shop and they say, you can't surf on Lake Michigan, the clerk or the owner could say, look at this,
Yeah.
show it. That was the main reason. And they still do that. Ryan Gerard's surf shop there, Third Coast Surf Shop in New
Yeah.
Buffalo and St. Joe. That's one of the things they'll use is my book. Now we have some magazines. Are you up on how many lake surf magazines are out now?
The only one that I subscribe to is the Great Lakes Surfers Journal that Brian
Okay.
Tanis runs. I'm not sure of any others. I've only seen one other one, Great Lakes Magazine or Surf Magazine or something, but I only found it online. I never saw a
Okay.
physical copy. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely growing. I'm stoked. I really want to get back to the area and frequent these places you're talking about. And I'm starting my own brand here, Freshwater Surf Goods. So I'm hoping to open
Oh,
up some kind of surf shop or something when I get back to the area. I currently teach stand-up paddleboarding out here in Vancouver, and I'm qualified to teach stand-up paddleboard surfing as well. So yeah, really eager to get back down there and really just throw myself into that community. When I was there before, it was very quiet. Like I was just sort of a young man at the time and wasn't very connected. That was pre-internet. So things have really changed now, the ability to connect. And yeah, a lot of the guys in your books here, Larry Cavero and yeah, all kinds of dudes. I'm just really excited to meet them in person, actually. And so the Dairyland Classic isn't happening anymore, but Ryan does a luau of some kind, does he not?
yeah. Usually in September they'll have a luau. You can buy used. You can sell surf gear, stand-up paddle boards, boogie boards, uh, and then there's get all the surfers from all over. It's not there's not as many people from all over as the Dairyland had,
Mm,
but it's getting better because right now that's the only thing that's going on consistently. There was something in was it Frankfurt last year? I was going to go, but I didn't get to it because I was running my beach stands. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I had a beach stand at Waco Beach and Bridgman and Warren Dunes and Sawyer. Uh, so that kind of tied up my summer.
hmm.
But
Do you
that
know
was
what
one of the
year
things.
the last Dairyland was?
Uh, I was there, but I couldn't tell you what year it
Yeah,
was.
okay.
But
That's a shame it's
it was
not
so
going.
fluky because Will just said, "Hey, let's do this," and I said, "Okay, let me ask my wife," and she said, "Go," and it was the last one. So it's like, wow, I'm so glad that I got to one of them anyway.
Yeah, right on. Good call. I wonder, um, 2001, a friend of mine, we were going to go over to the US and we were going to go to something. It's been so long, I can't remember quite what it was. But then September the 11th happened. And then
Oh,
we weren't going across the border anytime soon after that. So I can't recall what that would have been, but if you're saying the Dairyland Classics in September, that could have been it. Oh, but it's on Labor Day weekend though, I think.
right.
I read. Yeah, so maybe it was something else. So I'm really curious, especially about your, the younger days, kind of going back to that, you were saying, how did that, where did that drive to go surfing come from for a guy growing up in Chicago?
Well, my grandma had a cottage in Sawyer, Michigan, a place called Bethany Beach, and there was 5 sisters. So each one of the sisters would get 2 weeks during the summer. So every summer from the time I was born, I was spending 2 weeks up in Bethany Beach. And when I was a teenager, I was 15, I was walking down to the beach and I saw, you come down these stairs, there's like 9,900 stairs to come down. You start to see the whole beach as the trees start to clear. And there was these two guys out on the sandbar with surfboards, and I'd never seen surfboards there before. This is 1965. And so they were friends of mine, so I paddled out there, Ron and Ted Harling. And I said, hey, can I try? And he said, sure. So he let me try, and that was it. I
Yeah.
was hooked. It was like, okay, I'm standing on top of the water. I should be sinking, but I'm not. I'm moving across. And I think I caught the first or second wave all the way to shore. And that was it. I just fell in love with surfing and been surfing ever since. I had a interesting thing happen to me. If you read Lake Surfer's Journey, uh, I got out of the Navy, and I had been in drugs, and woke up one morning and my wife said, get up, we're going to church. And I said, you go to hell. And she said, get up. No, it's true story. She says,
The opposite of where you want to go.
she said, you get up, we're going to church, or I'm getting a lawyer. And
Wow.
I had gotten so drunk I had a blackout. So I went to church, and the Lord came. I asked the Lord in my life, and I gave him my surfboard, and actually gave up surfing for a little while. But I found out that it's okay if I surf as long as I have priorities straight.
Hmm.
God, family, and then work, surfing, ministry, whatever. But my priorities used to be surfing, family, work, everything. Surfing was a priority. And I learned that when I switched my priorities around and I put God first, I actually enjoyed surfing more because I was having fellowship with the creator of the entire world, the person that created surfing. That Jesus walked on the waves.
Mm-hmm.
I often see guys stand up paddleboard and I go, wow, that's what Jesus must have looked like when he was coming out to the disciples on the boat.
Yeah, really.
He didn't have a stand up. He was just walking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that really changed surfing for me. And here I am in Chicago. Found a couple of spots to surf other than Michigan when I got out of the Navy in, it was 1970. And there's a real famous, popular spot now called Shooters in Whiting, Indiana. I used to surf that place all by myself. Now there's tons of guys out there. But but after that, God called me in the ministry, and of all places, he called me to Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, God. So we were here for 27 years, pretty much. And then we went back for about 7-8 years. And now we're back again.
Wow.
But I look at my life and I go, how much better it was with God in my life. Hawaii was a dream. Hawaii is such a dream to so many people. It's like it's beyond what they can even dream of.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like all of a sudden I'm in Hawaii, I'm involved in ministry, and then after a while we started a church, and surfing was a big part of the ministry. We would pray for people. We'd be sitting out in the water talking with people, and somebody says, hey, yeah, this happened or that happened. I said, well, can we pray? He'd be sitting there in the lineup, and we'd pray for him.
Oh, wow.
You have to keep their eyes open though in case a set comes in.
Yeah, really.
You don't want to get in trouble. But yeah, so it's just been really interesting in how God has blessed me. We have 11 grandchildren now. Is that right? I think it's 11. Maybe 12. I don't know.
Last time you checked.
Yeah. But yeah, so and I surf with my sons. I surf with my grandkids, and I'm just really blessed.
Wow.
But it all comes back to the time when I realized that I had to make God a priority in my life.
Mm.
And I'll get up and read my Bible and pray before I go surf. And you know how sometimes it's like, oh, the conditions are perfect. I gotta do this first before I go. So if you ever get to Hawaii, I'll take you surfing, and I want you to come to church with me.
Count me in. It sounds like you'd have pretty quick access to water baptisms, anyways.
Well, actually, our church. My son's actually the senior pastor at this big church called New Hope Leeward. They actually used to go to the North Shore, but they changed it. They get these big pools outside the church, and they do it right after church.
Okay.
It's such a big church that going to the North Shore just is it's kind of difficult. So it works out much better the way they do it. But when I was a pastor in Waikiki, we would walk half a block down to the ocean. We do the baptisms right there in the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And if you were trying to keep your Christianity a secret, well, good luck with that, because there'd be about 10,000 people that could see you, because there's all these high rises all up and down Waikiki and all these people on the beach. You get baptized. A ton of people saw you get baptized. It was very public.
Awesome. Yeah, I was thinking maybe you'd take people and baptize them in Jaws.
What's that?
I said I thought maybe you'd take people up and baptize them in Jaws. The big waves.
Oh, no. No. We would actually be inside breakwater when we would do the baptisms. But I've done some on Lake Michigan, because when I pastored in Lake Michigan, in Michigan, our church met right on the beach. So there was times when the baptized people, we would just, they'd go like this, and we'd hold on to them. We see a big wave coming, we just put them down, we let the wave go over them, and then they were baptized.
Oh, I was curious about your wave chasers, though. Are you ever going to do a volume 3?
I doubt it.
Oh.
I just published a book called Life Lessons in Proverbs. And my dad used to tell me to read a psalm a day to get along with God, a proverb a day to get along with man. So that's one of the first things I do in the morning. So I've got life lessons in Proverbs. I'm thinking of doing life lessons in Psalms, and to complete all the books. But I think I'm pretty much done with doing any more surf books.
Awesome.
But I got to tell you, every once in a while I'll see a picture on Facebook and I go, oh man, I should publish another book, because this picture is so crazy good. And one of the things that I learned in publishing the book is all 5 of the Great Lakes have the potential for really, really, really good waves. I mean, head high, clean, just really good waves. But and I really didn't know that till I published those books, got those pictures. Yeah, every Great Lake has the potential, and I'm sure they each get them every year. But of course, the holy grail for a lake surfer has got to be a Lake Superior, Stony Point. I'm sure you've seen pictures from there.
Yeah, definitely.
1.5 overhead, 2 double overhead waves, just super clean. But the water is so cold, dude.
Yeah. Wow. Enough to take down the Edmund Fitzgerald. I think there'd be some good surf up there.
Yeah, actually, the day that Edmund Fitzgerald went down, one of the Doc Beaton and a couple of his friends did a rescue in Grand Haven.
Oh, really?
Several rescues. I think those waves are like 15 to 20 feet when that happened.
Amazing. Yeah, Eric Wilkie is one of the guys I'm supposed to talk to. I think he's based up somewhere up there on Lake Superior.
Yeah, he was from California, and he's a regular at Stony Point. Really good longboarder.
Yeah.
Very smooth.
going back to when you said that you gave God your surfboard, um, what did that look like when you felt like you had the green light to integrate surfing back into your life? How did you know, okay, I can balance all this properly now?
Well, I gave my surfboard to the Lord, and I just I put it away. I put it up in the rafters in the garage, and I said I'm never surfing again. Uh, Interesting. I was actually at a teaching Sunday school class, and I had this guest teacher come, Mrs. Elkins, elderly black lady, just loved the Lord. She would go into the jail and the prisons and preach the gospel. She was quite a lady, and the whole time she was teaching, I just I I could hardly hear what she was saying because I just felt the Lord was speaking to me, like, give me your surfboard. So when the class was over, I said to my wife and Mrs. Elkins, I said, I need you to stay. And they stayed. And I said, this is going to sound crazy, but I need to do something. And they said, what? I said, I need to give Jesus my surfboard. And so I prayed. And as I did that, I started crying, sobbing. My whole body was convulsing. But once I got done praying, I felt like a big weight had been taken off of me. So I said, okay, Lord, I'm never going to surf again. And then, maybe it was a month later, there was like the perfect wind conditions for whiting, where they call shooters. And I just says, oh, Lord, what are you doing for me? This is too tempting. And then
Torture.
I says, Lord, if you want me to go, you wake me at 6:00 in the morning. I woke up, I looked at the clock, and the minute hand was exactly on 6.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, Lord. And then I just kind of, as I kept seeking the Lord and growing, I realized that I could surf, but I needed to keep things, in order. I needed to have God first, keep my priorities. And when I say I really enjoy surfing more that way, it's really true, because if surfing is the only thing in your life and you go out and you have a bad session, you're just out of sorts. You're a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I still don't like having a bad session.
Yeah.
But it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But if surfing's your God and you have a bad wipeout or whatever, or you can't surf for a while, your whole world comes to an end. So yeah, it's made a big difference. And then, like I said, my big plan years ago was I was actually going to leave my wife, was to go to
Does she know that, or should I be deleting that?
no, it's in the book too.
Okay.
It's in the book. Anyway, she knows it. I was gonna leave her. I packed up my van and my board, and I had $100 cash. I was gonna go to Rhode Island and work at McDonald's and surf the rest of my life.
Wow.
And I just stopped to pray and talk to God, and I said, God, I'm leaving her because she's this, and this. And I laid out my argument like a well-trained lawyer. Okay. And I just felt God speak to me and say, go back and give it one more try. I said, no, God, you don't understand, because, she's this, and this. And God just kept saying, go back and give one more try. And so I did. And then I look back and I go, wow, my plan was to live at the campgrounds, work at McDonald's, surf all the time in Rhode Island, they got some good surf, but it gets cold there.
Yeah.
Instead, God says, no, I got a better plan. I'm going to send you to Hawaii, be a pastor. So there you go.
Wow, that's incredible. And she was game every step of the way?
No, she actually wasn't a Christian. After I went full on, just all in, and she wanted me to become a Christian, so I'd be nice. She wanted me to become radical.
Okay.
So anyway, we went to this thing called the Bill Gothard Seminar, and she prayed to receive the Lord, and I was just so happy. And then I told her, I says, oh, by the way, God called us to Hawaii. And woman of faith that she is, she said, have a good time. But it took a year for God to change her heart.
Mm.
And so August 28th, 1978, we boarded United Flight number 1 from Chicago to Honolulu with our 2 boys, 2 and 4 years old. And we went in and we went into the ministry. And from there, Waikiki Beach Chaplaincy, and from there we planted a church there.
And it seemed
But
like you were coming up against some roadblocks along the way, if I remember correctly, especially financially and whatnot, correct?
oh my gosh, you kidding? You live in Chicago and you tell people God's called you to be a missionary to Hawaii and you're raising support, they'll laugh right in your face.
Oh,
But
wow.
God wanted us to go, and somehow the money was there. I was working in the hardware store with my dad, and I was his partner, his junior partner. I was going to take over the store. It was a very good store, very lucrative store. And we owned our own house. We had a camper van, and we left it all behind. We were leaving I think we're leaving on a Monday, and I sold the camper van on Saturday. The house sold before that, but yeah, so God just put everything into order. Then I went back to school. My wife went with me. Then we came back to Hawaii. We planted a church, and God's just been faithful to us. I just look back on my life, and I look how she's stuck by me, and we've been married 49 years. And I'm like amazed how many women would uproot their family, leave their house that that you own, leave the family business, leave all their friends, and go to what's really is like a foreign land. Because Hawaii, there's so many people from Asia and South Pacific, and they're all together. It really is like we were the only white people that lived on our block when we moved here. White people are called howlies here, and there's usually an F word in front of it, and it's not fabulous.
Okay.
So, but yeah, my wife's an amazing person, and now we got all these grandchildren, and she's the Popo. Popo is Chinese for grandma,
Oh,
so
nice.
they just call her Popo. She doesn't surf though.
She doesn't surf after all that and all
No.
your life of surfing and boosting it up. Wow.
But she encourages me to go, so that's good.
Perfect. There you go. That's all you need. And it sounds like you weren't the easiest husband to have around either. So the fact that she did keep trusting and going with the flow.
I made a lot of mistakes as a husband. It's been a constant learning experience, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
One of the best things I was ever taught was, because you're gonna make mistakes, and your wife will get mad at you, and the best question to ask is from Proverbs 15:1. It says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." So the best thing to ask when I blow it, which still happens, maybe not as often as it used to, is how could I have done it differently? This happened and then I reacted this way. What could I have done differently? And that's a $60 million question right there. You remember that? You're married. That's going to help you out immensely.
Okay, I'm gonna remember those two things. So you've been married 49 years. I've been with my wife for around 15 years probably, but married for 6 now. So what's your big advice for all us younger married couples to get to 49?
Oh, it's my father used to say, being married's not for sissies. It's going to take a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to work at it. When I do weddings or marriage counseling, I always start out with the 5 love languages. Are you familiar with those?
Not off the top of my head, no.
There's a book called The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. I recommend that book. There's 5 different ways that we receive and express love. And if you can remember this acrostic GATES, GATES, or acronym, GATES, gift giving, alone time or quality time, touch, encouraging words, and service, acts of service. When I see a sink full of dirty dishes, you know what I see? I see opportunity to make my wife feel loved. And
Wow.
when we were first married, I would always touch her because that was one of my main love languages, and want to spend time with her. And her main love languages were gift giving and service. So she kept giving me gifts. Neither of us felt loved.
Huh.
When we understood, it really changed the dynamic in our relationship. So, and I realized I don't have to buy her a $10,000 tennis bracelet. I could just buy a $10 bouquet of flowers, and I'll still get points for it. I might get more points for the tennis bracelet. I don't know, but I don't have that kind of money. So
Yeah, my wife has brought that to my attention as well, that book, and she tells me that her love language is touch. And so I do have to keep that in mind, because I don't always necessarily require that. So I do have to go out of my way to, remember to communicate that way sometimes.
Yeah, because one of the things is you can say you love somebody,
Mm-hmm.
but do they feel love?
Mm-hmm.
Do they feel love? A lot of times my wife and I'll say to my wife, on a scale of 1 to 10, how loved do you feel? And I don't know, whatever the number. If it's low, I'll say, how can I make that number higher? And we'll ask each other that on a regular basis. We used to have these things called dates,
Mm-hmm.
but now with the coronavirus, those are kind of by the wayside.
No more dating.
When we had kids, we used to try to go on a date once a week, and then a couple times a year we try to have a getaway with just the two of us. And those are really important. Matter of fact, I think all three of my boys do that. That's so important to do, because life just gets hectic, it gets busy.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have kids, jobs, whatever, I think things can get crowded, and you lose connection with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you got to spend that time together where you can just talk.
Yeah, I find it more
Sometimes you don't have to talk,
than
just
ever.
be together.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
I find it more distracting than ever right now. I remember back in the day, it was, oh, my TV show is on at 8 o'clock, and if you missed it, you missed it. Right now, like, everything is on demand and available all the time. And, I do really find that you can fill your minutes every day with something. So it really does take a conscious effort to stop and be present, I find.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Always trying to improve on that.
So there's this story that I heard. This guy was walking down the beach in California, and he kicked something in the sand. He looked down, he had something sticking out of the sand, so he dug around, pulled out, it was a lamp. So he rubs the lamp, and a genie comes out. And the genie says, I'm going to give you one wish. And he said, one wish? I thought I got 3 wishes. The genie says, no, you've been watching too many movies. You get one wish, anything you want. So the guy thought, and he goes, I always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I don't like to fly. So I'd like you to build a bridge from California to Hawaii so I could drive there. The genie says, you know how deep the ocean is? You know how far we're going to have to go down to get to bedrock? He said, remember the Mackinac Island? We lost 20 guys on the Mackinac Island we built. You know how many guys are going to lose on this island? And the genie says, is there anything else you could wish for? So the guy thought, and he says, yeah, okay. I'd like to understand women. And the genie said, you want 1 lane or 2? See, God wired their brains differently than ours. We will never understand women. We will always be learning. And so that's the challenge right there. I always say my wife's a beautiful mystery, and I'm always trying to figure her out. I'll never get there, but I'm always working on it.
Wow. 49 years and still an unsolved mystery.
Yep, still working on it.
Okay, well, I'm going to take that and remember that then, that I'm not going to be figuring out things anytime too soon.
No, just keep working and listen not only what she says, but try to find out what she means. Because sometimes women will say something, but that's not what they mean. So it's your job, mission impossible, to try to find out what she really means. So.
Well, I think she's going to be happy about this conversation. I was supposed to talk to you about surfing, and here we are talking about marriage and getting marriage advice. So probably worked out better in her favor. So do you ever run into some of the big names out there then? I mean, it's a small island.
Johnny Boy Gomes borrowed my sunblock one time.
Okay.
He forgot to give it back to me. I had to ask for it back. But uh, I've met, well, some guys I've just seen. I've seen Rusty K surfing. My friend was a lifeguard. The guy that took over my church in Waikiki actually was a lifeguard for most of his life. He knew everybody down there, Buffalo and all the local boys. And I saw stuff there I never even knew existed. I think it was Rusty surfing on his board upside down.
Oh,
just just crazy things like that. But trying to think who
have you
else.
tried?
Oh, never. I met Dane Kealoha at a Bible study. He was a world champ back in the day. Fred Hemmings was a friend of mine when I was a pastor. He's one of the guys that used to surf with the Duke Quantamoku on his surf team and travel with him and stuff like that.
Wow.
I've met some others, but I can't remember right now. There's two signs of old age: loss of memory, and I forgot the other one, so I can't remember.
So when you were, under the sea in that submarine in the Navy, did you ever think for a second you'd have such a blessed life and be surfing in Hawaii every day?
No,
Wow.
never even. It was so far from my imagination to even think of even visiting Hawaii, let alone live here.
Mm.
And yeah, that was a kind of a dark time in my life when I was on the submarine, spiritually speaking.
Mm.
But it led me to a point where I kind of came into the light, so to speak. But I'm glad I served. I'm not ashamed of that.
Mm. And if I remember correctly from the book, it sounds like you were able to get quite a bit of surfing in too at one of your stations.
Yeah, I used to be 55 minutes from Matunic, Rhode Island, and it was a super nice. Because of when my submarine would go out, I was always there in the spring and the fall. And boy, after a hurricane would come by, we'd have some lefts that would be like at least 200 yards long. And just, I mean, you drop in it and it would just break. Then it would flatten out, and then you hit the inside section, it would break and take you all the way to shore. You'd step off right under the sand.
Oh,
It
wow.
was a pretty awesome place. But I got to tell you, doesn't hold a candle to Hawaii. I'll tell you that.
No?
No, if you can get away without wearing wetsuits, you're better off.
Yeah. That's actually something I miss about the lakes even in the summertime, being able to just be out there in board shorts. Out here in Vancouver, on Vancouver Island, it's always wetsuit weather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's some people who brave it, but
Those days on the lake when we had warm water, we had to like go.
mhm.
Okay, we got 72-degree water. There's waves. We got to go now, because usually that meant there was a north wind, and the
Mm.
water would turn cold the next day. It would go like from 72 down to 55. So you had to take advantage. When there was a warm day, warm water, you just had to go. It was like everything else is going to get put on hold.
For
Whatever you
sure,
can
yeah.
do later, you do later.
Rare conditions, but the best conditions.
Yep.
Right on. Where can people connect with you?
On Facebook, Jack Nordgren, or Instagram, Jack Nordgren.
Okay, perfect. I'll post that. And I noticed that I think your Waikiki Jack's site is still live.
Yeah, I still have a beach stand at Warren Dunes in Sawyer. The other beach stand at Waco Beach in Bridgman, I sold that last year. Last year was just the worst season we ever had because the weather was so bad.
Okay.
Now this year we got the COVID-19, but hopefully if we can get open by 4th of July, it'll be a good summer.
So is someone else running it then?
Yeah, I have a couple guys that run it for me. I try to get people that are lake surfers,
Mm-hmm.
because they're comfortable in the water in extreme conditions, and people that know the lake, currents, things to watch out for. There's always there's a whole list of different things you have to watch out for when you're renting kayaks and stand-up paddleboards, different dangers that you're going to run into, and it'll change every day.
Why do you think it is? What is it about surfing that makes people get so stoked? Like, how come you don't hear? I mean, yes, people are passionate about different things, but there's something about surfers that it's life-changing. It becomes, part of your spirituality. It's not just a sport. I mean, for you, it was even in the way of your marriage and different things. Like, that's how much power it has. So why do you think that is? What is it about surfing?
I think just something about harnessing the energy of the ocean, of the waves, because when you paddle out, you try to go around or go under the power of the waves, and then you come in and you're using the power of the wave, to ride it all the way to shore, and just connecting with nature. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a mystery, and there's so many different variations of surfing now. Stand-up paddleboard surfing, the windsurfing. There's these new, oh gosh, I forgot what you call them. That they have the long thing underneath and they ride out of the water.
Yeah, the foils.
Foils, yeah, the
Foil board.
foils. But I think, and I think those things will come and go. But I think just basic surfing will always be here.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it is life changing. It is something that it becomes a part of you,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a number of friends that they didn't make it in their marriage because of surfing.
Mm.
Some people, that's that's all they do. That's all they think of, and I don't think they're really happy.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Seems like you know a few things.
Yeah, maybe a few.
Yeah, but when you were saying earlier though about the power of standing on a wave and whatnot, I think that it is such a unique experience, and I feel like I'm part of some secret club in a way that has experienced what it feels like to stand on top of a wave, what it feels like to go inside of a wave. And for some people, that's just not a priority or something they're necessarily curious about. But I mean, once you do that, like you're saying, I've never felt so connected to nature, so connected to God, right in the rawness of it all. There's just no going back. I just crave more of that.
Yep, I get you. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I figured. Well, this has been so awesome, Jack. It's nice to make new friends. If you ever make a Wave Chasers 3, count me in. I'll be there. Meantime, stay stoked and keep on surfing out there.
I'll do my best.
Yeah, so jealous, man. All right, we'll see you, Jack.
Okay, aloha.
Aloha. Mahalo.